Okay, thanks for having me. Thanks to the Sydney Mining Club for hosting the rare earth event. Obviously a pretty depressed market at the moment, so it's great to see so many of you interested in the rare earth market today. Thank you. Maybe before I kick into all things about Australian rare earths, I'll just touch on a few things about the market. Comes to one of the earlier questions as well. I think there's one thing that I don't think is really well understood in the market, and that is the supply side risk of heavy rare earths, the dysprosium and terbium. Today, almost all of the heavy rare earths come out of the ionic clay projects that are essentially controlled by China. If you then look around the world with all the projects that might get into production over the next 3 or 4 years, they're primarily light rare earth projects. There's not a lot of heavy rare earths that are shovel ready or looking like they might come into production anytime soon. So really to fill that heavy rare earth supply gap, it's going to have to be the Western ionic clay deposits. And if you look around, none of those are shovel ready either, essentially. So that's why we believe that projects like our Copper project, which has a really good assemblage of heavy rare earths, so we're running at 21.5% NdPr and around 3% heavies, DyTb. It's those sorts of projects that have a pathway to production over the next few years that I think will be really valuable in the market, but also by customers who are really desperate for that source of heavy rare earths. So if we move into the usual disclaimer, so our flagship asset is Copper, our rare earth project in the southeast of South Australia. To date, we've identified a really large resource, and we have a project that has a lot of exploration upside, given the tenure that we have. We've also identified a sustainable development pathway via a heap leach approach. We expect there to be a much lower capital and operating cost environment with that, and also a lower technical risk compared to some of the more complex hard rock deposits you might be aware of. So we believe Copper has a pathway to be into production, to be Australia's first ionic clay project into production. And to complement this, we've built out a team that is developing a really strong exploration portfolio of early stage projects that we think will give us optionality, flexibility and scale to add into the company as we develop. So just a quick look at the corporate snapshot. Two key things here. We're really well funded. So we've got just over $9 million in cash as at March. So we've got a really strong position to fund all of the projects that we have and make meaningful progress with those projects over the coming months and quarters. We've got a really strong long-term shareholder base, which includes Neo Performance Materials. Why is Neo important? So Neo is one of the few Western companies that have separation capacity, so rare earth separation capacity outside of China. So they are a potential off-taker for our product. So we have a non-binding MOU with Neo for them to take 50% of our stage 1 production and an option on stage 2 production as well. One of the benefits we also have with our relationship with Neo is that we have access to their technical team. So we have people from Neo on our team, technical review as we develop our flow sheet and ultimately produce a saleable rare earth product. So that's a massive advantage for our team with that strength. And you may have seen today, Meteoric has also entered into an MOU with Neo for some offtake for their project in Brazil. So just a quick look around where all our projects are. So Copper, the flagship project's in the southeast of South Australia. It does border the South Australian Victorian border. The majority of our tenure is on the South Australian side and the side that we look to develop first. We've got some new early stage exploration projects in North Queensland from a rare earth perspective, and we recently entered into an option to acquire the Overland Uranium project in the Murray Basin of South Australia in what's a potential new uranium province, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But at all of our projects, we've got a substantial land package providing lots of greenfield exploration opportunities ahead of us. So now we'll delve into Coppermurra. So like I said, we believe that we've got a multi-generational asset at Coppermurra that can be providing magnet and rare earths into the market for decades to come. If you look at the sheer size of the resource potential, it is significant. So we've got just over 7,000 square kilometres of prospective tenure there at Coppermurra. Much of it is still to be explored. The deposit, if you look at the setting there, it's a little different to what you would traditionally see. It's the rare earths sit in the clay over a shallow limestone base, and it means that the deposit's typically less than 10 metres deep. So what does that provide? That provides quick, low-cost exploration, and ultimately when you get into mining, it'll be the same. So we've got significant resource growth potential. Given that if you think about the southeast of South Australia, some people might know it as the limestone coast. So that setting of clay over limestone is extensive throughout our tenure position. Just a little more on the resource as we continue to grow confidence in the size and scale. We've drilled a little over 65,000 metres since 2021. We've defined a resource of 186 million tonnes at just over 700 ppm. Importantly, the current resource sits on only just 2% of our total tenure. Our exploration target of 300 million to 3.1 billion tonnes is on only 20% of our prospective tenure. So it provides significant upside for resource growth over time. Late last year, and you can see on the screen where we've highlighted, we've drilled another 8,000 metres. We've been releasing assay results from that drilling over the last few months. The infill drilling has confirmed shallow, high-grade subset of the resource, and the extensional drilling to the north has also confirmed high-grade rare earth mineralisation. So the drilling results will inform a resource and exploration target update that we'll plan to release in the September quarter of this year. And the focus on those high-grade subsets of the resource is something that we're really focused on as we look to our development plans into production. So I guess if we just turn our attention to the flow sheet and how we've been developing that. In April, we released an update to our flow sheet design. I guess over the last 5 months or so, we've been conducting a series of column leach tests, and the initial results have been really encouraging. So what the column leach test work is essentially the lab scale test work that informs your ability to be able to move into a heap leach operational environment. Our initial results have indicated that the recoveries under that methodology is ranging somewhere between 42 and 72%. So really encouraging. Again, early days with the heap leach test work. So these results are unoptimised, and we're now in test work to continue to look at the leach optimisation, ore preparation as it goes into the heaps. We're looking at ore variability and how the recoveries behave over different areas of the resource, and we're also starting to test the potential to take the heaps higher. So the initial column test work's been done at 2 metres. We've got a 4 metre column underway at the moment, and all the results from these next round of test work will certainly help inform and refine our capital and operating costs for the project. I guess one thing on costs I'll just touch on. You're probably all aware, hard rock deposits that are out there. They can be expensive to bring into production. You're looking at $1 to $2 billion of capital to get into the production. Complex processing, so higher technical risk. If you look at the ionic clay type projects, those that are going down the slurry leach in tank approach, you're looking at around $500 million in capital. We think going the heap leach approach will be a significant reduction in capital and will be orders of magnitude less than that. So In addition to that, it's also going to be a lower technical risk. So we think being one of the lower capital costs, lower technical risk projects, we think that's going to be strategically very important as we try and advance the project and get into production. So this is what the conceptual flow sheet for Coppermurra looks like. As you can see with the ionic clays and our deposit, there's no drill and blast, no waste dumps, no tailings dams. There's a focus on our ability to recycle water and reagents to help bring operating costs down. And one of the other important aspects that this will also allow is the ability for us to rapidly rehabilitate the land. The project is in farmland, so it's going to be really important that we minimise the impact or the duration that we are on the farmers' lands before we can hand them back, and so that's going to be a really important aspect of the project. Some of the other environmental improvements by going down the heap leach approach for us is going to result in a much lower water consumption for the project, as well as a reduction in power consumption from the tank alternative. Again, also that it also enables an improved material handling characteristic of the clays, which will enable that rapid progressive rehabilitation program. So what does a rapid progressive rehabilitation program look like? So the photos on the screen here are a trial mining pit that we conducted down at Coppermurra, where we excavated the clays and then placed them back in the pit and rehabilitated the land and handed it back to the farmer. So initial trial, we learnt a lot and we'll incorporate those learnings into our development plans as we progress the project. I think it's really one of those parts of the projects that I'm quite excited about. If you think about the opportunity to work really closely with your farmers to understand their soils today, and then what improvements we can make to those soils during mining and the rehabilitation program to hopefully provide the soils back to the farmers in a more resilient and a more productive state than what they are today. If we can do that, that's a long-term value creation that we can provide one of our important stakeholders. So that's something that we're really excited to work with our farmers on. So next steps at Coppermurra, it's really focused around unlocking value by advancing the project to development. We have already completed the majority of the baseline environmental studies required for phase 1 of the project area. And I think what that also enables us with bedding down the flow sheet is the ability to move into preparation for a mining lease application. So we do believe we're the most advanced ionic clay project here in Australia, and that we can be one of the first into production. And it's really at a time where I guess Western governments are increasingly committed to developing an alternate supply chain and showing the support to do that. So we're certainly really encouraged about the progress to date and look forward to further updates. Just quickly on the rest of the portfolio, like I said, we've just recently entered into an agreement to acquire the Overland Uranium Project in South Australia. The project area covers almost 3,000 square kilometres in what is potentially a new uranium province. There's been very little work done targeting uranium in this province. We believe that the tenure has the potential to have the characteristics required to host a sedimentary hosted uranium deposit, and we look forward to progressing the project. The applications are currently in. Once they are granted, which we expect to be in the third quarter of this year, we look forward to getting on the ground and demonstrating what we might have there. We believe adding uranium into the portfolio is good from an AR3 perspective. We're really maximising the expertise of our exploration team, and we feel like bringing early stage projects into the portfolio gives us the opportunity to for growth, flexibility within the portfolio, and also some scale over time. So just to North Queensland, where we have 2 project areas in what we believe will be highly prospective for ionic clay style of deposits in a setting that you would more traditionally see ionic clay deposits. So those that you would traditionally see in China and South America, where you've got that much stronger tropical weathering profile. The first area is the Dalrymple project, where we have 4 of the 5 tenements already granted. And we've recently had one of our geos up in site doing some initial soil sampling. We intend to get back on the ground a little later this year for some follow-up work, which will inform an initial drilling campaign. So early days, but excited about the prospectivity of the Dalrymple project. And then the second project up in North Queensland is the Kennedy province, where we have the Oakey Valley, Sandy Tate, 40 Mile Scrub applications and the Massey Creek tenement already granted. We're really encouraged by work done by others in the area. So you've seen DevEx have some really good drill results with rare earth assemblage and some really encouraging initial metallurgical recoveries from the region. So once all tenements are granted, we're going to be up on ground pretty quickly to rapidly assess the prospectivity of those projects. So just quickly in summary, obviously a lot of exciting opportunities for us to progress, and we're really well funded to do so. The potential for Coppermurra to be the first ionic clay project here in Australian development is exciting. We've put together the team that can build out a really strong exploration portfolio that's going to provide us with scale, upside, and some flexibility within the portfolio. Ultimately, with the aim to create value for our shareholders. So with that, I guess I'll hand back for maybe a few questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Same question as last one. What percentage in the heavy rare earths is it?
Yeah, so our assemblage, so we have around 21.5% of the TREO is NdPr, the lights, and then we're running around 3% heavies. Yeah, which if you think about other ionic clay deposits, that's up there with some of the better ones. Yeah.
How does it stack the clay? Does it have trouble stacking and holding the shape?
Yeah, so Rob, the initial test work in the columns has been quite good. We haven't not seeing any slumping or anything benching, so no problems at all. We've actually been quite surprised. That's one of the risks with clays in a heap is that it does that, and we haven't seen anything to date. So really, and I think probably one of the key things is the agglomeration phase. So there's add some binder and some of the sulfuric acid at the agglomeration phase is we think is helping in that in the heaping process. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Travis.
All good. Thank you.